Good morning, everyone. Last Monday we had Jukai, or receiving the precept ceremony, and this year 7 people received the precept, and Alexas was one of them. That was the end of the 5-day precept retreat we have every year. And the retreat was the end of the 3-month practice period, started in the early April. And during these 3 months, Muso Junbiks gave Dharma talks on Sundays. So I was relieved from giving a talk and also making preparation on every Saturday. So I really appreciated his effort. And you could listen to the really English Dharma talk. My English is not really English. My English is kind of halfway between Japanese and English. So I appreciate your patience to listen to my talk. Anyway, I continue to talk on this text, Opening the Hand of Thought. This text was written by my teacher, and I was one of the translators. And I have been talking on this text for several years. In my record, this is 163rd talk. So I talk almost paragraph by paragraph each time. Today, I'd like to talk the 4th paragraph of page 103, if you have the text. This is a paragraph I talked last time. That was end of March. But to make our memory fresh, I start from there. I'd like to read 2 paragraphs. It's a kind of a long, but I think it's connected. These 2 are really one thing. Okumura Roshi says, in other words, egocentricity lies at the basis of whatever we see or do. It tugs along with us. Being dragged around by egocentric thought, our life cannot manifest directly and we wind up pushed out of shape and disabled. This being dragged about by egocentric thoughts has been committed by humankind since its beginning. Adam and Eva truly put us in a mess. So he introduced the Christian mythology suddenly in Buddhist talk. And he, because of not a serious theological discussion, but because he wanted to talk about a cartoon. I saw a fascinating cartoon in a newspaper some years ago. Adam was trying with all his might to vomit up something he had eaten. Eva was standing beside him with a worried expression, saying, Adam, hasn't that apple you ate come out yet? If only humanity could once and for all vomit up that indigestible green apple of ego attachment. In a way, egocentric thought is a little like original sin. In Buddhism, true Zazen is, in a sense, the posture of vomiting up that apple. But when did we eat the apple? It was by no means in some remote mystical past. Here we are merely interdependent existences, a collection of such accidental factors as heredity, the overall current of the times, and of social context in which we find ourselves. Without any good reason, moved by ignorance, we pompously stick a label onto this aggregation, calling it I. We firmly believe that this is our self, and we cling to ego as though it simply existed in the natural order of things. Actually, outside of the power of ignorance, which causes attachment to the ego self, in each moment, where is the apple we ate? The apple is precisely what we are eating again and again in our attachment to ourselves. This is what Okumura Roshi is talking, and basically what he's talking is ego attachment. That is ga, shu. In Japanese, and ga is self, or ego, or in Sanskrit, atman. And shu is attachment, or clinging. And this attachment to ourselves, even though there's no such things called atman or ego or self or ga, that doesn't change and that existing forever. There's no such things, and yet this ga or atman is created within by our thinking. According to Shakyamuni Buddha, our life is a collection of 5 aggregates that are rupa, or form, that is materials, in our case, this body, and the other 4 that is a sensation, perception, formation, and consciousness. Those are called 5 aggregates or 5 skandhas. And the first skandha is this body, and rest of 5 are the function of our mind. So Buddha said only 5 skandhas are there. There's no such things called atman. That is what meant in this word anatman. An means no. But somehow, these 5 skandhas, our body and mind, work together as like a machine. Somehow we create this idea of I or self. I think because we have to use our brain. That is our ability to think. And when we think, we use concept. As a concept or as a very, very basic logic, A must be always A. And A cannot be non-A. And, exclude middle, that means there's nothing between A and non-A. That is, I think, very basic principle of our logic, using our concept, using concept. That means A must be always A. That means Shohaku must be always Shohaku. There must be something which doesn't change. And yet my mind, the function of our mind, are always changing. So, not as a natural order, we think there must be something that doesn't change, even though our actual function of our mind is always changing. Not only the mind, but also our body is changing. But our logical way of thinking request that is always the same, that never change. I think that is the way we have to create this I. As I always say, when I was born, I was tiny, and my body, since then, my body has been changing constantly. First 15 or 16 years, my body getting bigger and bigger, and stop growing. And now, after 60 years, my body becomes shrink and disappear. That is how our body changes. And the function of our mind is always changing. What I wanted when I was a baby, and when I was teenagers, and when I was middle ages, and now I'm 67, so I'm already aged person. Each stage of my life, what I want and what I think meaningful or valuable, it's changing. So everything, all five skandhas are changing. Even our thinking is changing. But still, we have to say, I was a baby, 67 years ago, and I was a teenager around 50 years ago. In that sense, case, I doesn't change. This something that doesn't change goes through the process of changing. That is how our mind works. If there's no such concept which doesn't change, or I, we cannot even say when I was a baby, or when I was a teenager. So this I, or concept, is a tool to think and to understand the process of our life. But where is this I which doesn't change beside the five skandhas? It's not there. So this I is a concept produced in our mind in order to understand what is happening within ourselves and outside of ourselves. But kind of interesting thing is, because this I doesn't change, and yet the way our body and mind function is always changing. In order to understand the relation between this and this, we think, this is the owner of five skandhas. And I use my body and mind. And this I use this body and mind to make this I satisfied. So five skandhas that is only there is considered as a tool that this I can use to make this I happy. According to Buddha, this attachment to I is the source of the problems in human life. And Okumura Roshi is talking about the meaning or significance of Zazen or Buddhist practice in the modern society or modern age. And Okumura Roshi mentioned that as a human beings, from the very beginning of the history of human civilization, we have been making effort in two ways or in two aspects. One is progress. Means we want to make ourselves and the situation or condition of our life better. And we make effort to work hard to achieve that goal. That is, Okumura Roshi calls that is an effort for progress. And the second is aspect of peace of mind. By nature, progress, our effort to progress is based on dissatisfaction. That means I cannot satisfy where we are or who I am. So we make kind of a discrimination. Which part is okay and which part is not okay. Therefore, we grow this part and eliminate that part. Then we can be better in the future. Then when we achieve that thing, we become happy, or more happier, or more comfortable, or better. So the very basis of our effort to progress, there is dissatisfaction. That is a driving force of our effort. And that is important. If we satisfied, there's no way to make effort. So dissatisfaction is important for us. But if only see our life in this way, we cannot see any peace of mind, because we are always, moved by dissatisfaction and always kind of greedy to get closer to the goal each moment. And also the goal was a better condition is something all people want to reach or achieve. So in this aspect of human life, we have to become competitive with others to be successful. So we become greedy and competitive. And this dissatisfaction. Those are the perfect set of the quality of our life, makes our life samsara, according to Buddha's teaching. Samsara, the cause of samsara is dissatisfaction, or three poisonous mind: greed to something we want, and anger or hatred, something we don't like. And greed and hatred are based on ignorance. And basically, in Buddhist teaching, ignorance means ignorance of no self. Because we don't see the self is only a concept. It doesn't really exist. We think this is really exist, and this is the owner of our mind, body, and mind, and we cling it, and we think to make this I more successful or powerful or better than others, become purpose of our life. That is really the way, typical way to make our life into suffering within samsara. Traditionally, samsara is called the transmigration with 6 realms from heaven, human being, the realm of human beings, Ashura or fighting spirit. Fighting spirit is competitive mind, competitive heart, and animal, hungry ghost, and hell. So if we see our life only from this aspect, our life becomes transmigration. Not only 6 realms of samsara, but many other, even millions of different realms, and we transmigrate even moment by moment. Sometimes we feel we are so successful, but next moment we feel I feel like I'm in the hell, or I sometimes feel I have to compete with others to make this person, successful. So we are always transmigrating, and so there's no way we can find a peace of mind. So Okumura Roshi said, in the modern ages, we put too much emphasis on progress. So we have to see how can we achieve or find a peace of mind, where we can find peace of mind, satisfaction instead of dissatisfaction. Or how can we live without those 3 poisonous mind, greed, anger or hatred against something we don't want or we don't like, and ignorance. That is basically what the Buddha taught. How can we transform our life from samsara to nirvana or peace of mind? Next thing Okumura Roshi said is that is Buddhist teaching. How can we find the peace of mind? But he said if we simply separate these 2 aspects of our life, and if we think, this is bad, this is good or better or desirable, then we create another samsara, another discrimination. And I think I don't like this, I love this. And we start to make effort. How can we achieve the peace of mind? And we start to compete with others who can be more enlightened. And our practice become a kind of a same as making effort to make money or to become famous or to become enlightened. Like the object of our desire is different, but what is happening in our mind is the same. We feel something lacking, or I don't like who I am, or this condition. Therefore, we have to make effort. If we practice even Buddha's teaching in that with such attitude, then we create samsara within Buddhist practice. So the main point in our life as a Mahayana Buddhist or Bodhisattva, and also people living within this busy, noisy society where we have to work hard, is how can we integrate these 2 aspects of human life? That means how can we find a peace of mind within busy life? Or how can we work hard without losing peace of mind? I think that is the very important point we have to find. If we think we simply negate this material busy life, competitive life, then we become lazy, and we cannot find a healthy way of making effort. Or in Buddhist teaching, diligence. Very important point in Buddhist teaching is being free from desires, ego-centered desires. And yet Buddha taught as a 6 parameters. Diligence is one of the 6 parameters. How can we work hard or practice diligently without delusion, desires? If there's such an energy, what is the energy to make us diligent, keep us diligent without desire or dissatisfaction? That is the point of, I think, our Buddhist practice in the modern society and also as a bodhisattva. How can we integrate these two aspects? Our effort to make progress, work diligently, and yet not losing peace of mind. Then he discussed, Okumura Roshi started to discuss the middle way. Middle way, I think you know this word. So to find something, integrate these two aspects, we need to find the middle way. These two, in a sense, these two are two extremes. So how can we find the middle way between these two? And traditional Buddhist teaching, this, could you erase this? This middle way is described or taught, the middle way between self-indulgence and self-mortification, like a self-torture. But more philosophically, this middle way is taught as a middle way between two extreme views. One is, in Japanese, joken or mu-ken, and another is danken. Or, I'm sorry, this is u, this is mu. U means being or existence, and mu is non-being, and jo is external. So view of externalism, I think that is English translation. And eternal or permanent, that doesn't change. And dan is extinction. And ken is view, the way to see things. And u means existence, so this means this existence means existence of Atman. Atman doesn't change, it permanently never change. That means our life is determined. And there's no such things. That means everything is accidental. Changes at random. There's no such, principle. Buddha taught these are two extremes. And the middle way is interdependence. Dependence or emptiness. And one of the definition of emptiness in Buddhist teaching is neither he, and he, mu. And he means no. Neither or neither being or neither externalism, eternalism, and nor the opposite. And another word, this means causality. Causality. That means there is a cause and effect. And the thing that tie this cause and result is called karma. Karma means the influence of action. Depending upon what we do, the influence of this action bring about the result. So depending upon what we have done, our life is determined in certain degree. And yet we have some freedom, even though we did such and such things in the past. The past is already gone. So we can make change at this moment. And our activity, our action of this moment, or this present time, change or influence the future. So it's not fixed like a... Thank you. And it's not at random. There's some principle. This is what the middle way means in the case of human life. But this middle way is kind of difficult to really understand, because when we see from this view, this idea of middle way seems like no, nothing is fixed. But when someone sees the middle way from this side, we are determined by our karma. And there are many misunderstandings from both sides. So to understand the middle way, or emptiness, or interdependence, is a kind of a subtle thing. It's not so simple. Actually, there's no such middle way between this and that. Middle way is including both and free from both. That is what middle way means. Anyway, and then Okumura Roshi started to talk about our zazen. Our zazen is a practice of middle way, depending upon our karmic condition. Karmic condition means where I was born, how I was educated, and what kind of things I studied, and what kind of experiences I had in the past. My view might be, I have a tendency to view from this side or that side, depending upon our personality or characteristics, and also our past experiences. But what we do in our zazen is let go of whatever thought coming up from my consciousness that was formed by our karma. And when we sit and letting go, that means we don't grasp any thought, and we don't fight against the thought, and we don't try to eliminate the thought. We just keep letting go, letting them come and letting go. We don't control them. So our zazen is kind of a very unique thing. We don't contemplate anything, or we have no object to meditate, but we just sit and let go of whatever coming and going. Just let them come and go. And those things coming and going is whichever kind of thought we have, depending upon our karma. So, and in a sense, what we do in our zazen is negate everything coming from our consciousness. We don't take any action based on those thinking or evaluation or like and dislike. And yet we don't negate them. We embrace them. We don't fight against them. So that means we simply become what's the word, intimate with what actually happening without saying I like this or I hate that. In a sense, when we see, children are fighting, we don't say, usually we don't think one side is bad, another side is good. But we try to calm both them down. And I think, our zazen is like us when we see that children fight. Those are kind of a children's fight. There are causes, but we cannot say this side is really bad and another side is really good. But somehow this is happening. And we see whatever happening in our mind as like a children's fight, or like a dislike based on limited karmic view or karmic consciousness. So I always say in our zazen, this not me, but this zazen is like a blue sky, boundless blue sky, and depending upon causes and conditions, within this blue sky, some clouds appear, stay for a while, changing the shape and disappear. Sometimes the clouds are peaceful white clouds, floating. So we feel it's good. We feel good. But sometimes more than half of the sky is covered with the clouds. And sometimes the sky is completely covered with clouds, and we don't see any blue sky. And sometimes we have storm or lightning. All that kind of changes of weather is happening in our zazen. But we don't think the condition without any cloud is good zazen. And if our mind is completely covered with clouds, or even when we have storm, we don't think that is bad zazen, whether good or bad, or difficult or not difficult, or happy or unhappy. That is the condition, and we cannot control the weather. So, important point in our zazen is keep this upright posture, and going through any conditions, whether it's peaceful or stormy. That is the way we become friendly, intimate with really happening within those 5 skandhas, without evaluating this is good or this is bad. Then what I'm doing is what this I is doing. I don't like this part of myself, or I love that part of myself. How can we negate and eliminate that part? Like when we have, a cancer in somebody, if we take this out, having, operation take this out, then we become healthy. But Buddhist practice is not like having a surgery to, some problem out. But we have to live with the problem. And somehow we have to, being friendly and work together with even the difficult part of our life. To do so, in our zazen, and just being intimate and friendly with whatever happening and recognize it, I think is really helpful. Of course, during zazen we do nothing about those things. We just sit, and those things are simply coming and going. But when we stand up and get out, we can think. And think why this happened in our Zazen. Then we can find the kind of a characteristic of this person's, 5 skandhas. And if we think we need to change anything, we can change. Or at least we can make effort to change. But don't be enemy to yourself. But in our Zazen, we don't do such a thing. So in our Zazen, there's nowhere to go. There's no goal. Just being there and just be there is the goal of Zazen. But when we get out of the Zendo, we can make effort how to use these 5 skandhas in a healthy way. In order to do so, we have to make evaluation, and we need to think why this is here now. There might be come from something I experienced from the past, and usually we don't remember. So we don't know why this is here, but somehow I'm being dragged with this. That is what ignorance means when Ujjayi Roshi discussed in these 2 paragraphs. Well, now I return to this text. So he said, in other words, egocentricity, that is clinging to the self, or ego, or Atman, lies at the basis of whatever we see or do, whatever thinking or activity we do. There is egocentricity or ego attachment. It tags along with us. Being dragged around by egocentric thought, our life cannot manifest directly and wind up pushed out of shape and disabled. That means our life is distorted and not healthy. We go this way or that way, or we become competitive, and we have a superiority complex or inferiority complex, depending upon with whom I compare. This being dragged about by egocentric thought has been committed by humankind since its beginning, and he bring up Adam and Eva. Of course, this is a mythology from Christianity or Judaism, but he's talking about is Buddhism, so don't worry about Christian theology. And he saw a cartoon by a Japanese, I think, a student. I saw a fascinating cartoon in a newspaper some years ago. Adam was trying with all his might to vomit up something he had eaten. Eva was standing beside him with a worried expression, saying, "Adam, hasn't that apple you ate come out yet?" So Adam is trying to vomit what he ate. That was the apple of original sin. And that is the fruits of knowledge or wisdom of knowing good and bad. So this is a source of discrimination or separation. If only humanity could once and for all vomit up the indigestible green apple of ego attachment. So he's talking about is this ego attachment or attachment to this I. And this is the original sin for all of human beings. How can we become free from this ego attachment? How can we vomit this thing? And he continues, in a way, egocentric thought is a little like original sin. In Buddhism, true Zazen is, in a sense, the posture of vomiting up that apple. So in our Zazen, he said, in our Zazen, we vomit the apple, whether we're successful or not, or whether it's possible or not. But he said, this Zazen is a posture of vomiting up the apple. And he says, but when did we eat the apple? When did we eat the egocentricity or ego attachment? And he said, it was by no means in some remote mythical past. This was not happened by our ancestors, such as Adam and Eva, but we are eating the apple moment by moment by doing ego-centered actions. Here we are, merely interdependent existences, a collection of such accidental factors as heredity, the overall current of the times, and the social context in which we find ourselves. So all different elements. We are the collection of all different elements, and yet, without any good reason, moved by ignorance, we pompously stick a label onto this aggregation, these five aggregations, calling I. We firmly believe that this is ourself, or this is the owner of these five skandhas. And we cling to ego, or Atman, or I, as though it simply existed in the natural order of things. Actually, outside of the power of ignorance, which causes attachment to the ego self in each moment, where is that apple we ate? So we eat apple moment by moment by not awakening to the reality of no self or emptiness. So this is not about the myth in certain religion, but we are still eating the apple. So we have to vomit each moment. That apple is precisely what we are eating again and again, not only one time, in our attachment to ourselves. This is the end of the paragraph. What Okumura Roshi is talking about Zazen and vomiting the apple is the same as, as I often say, the first sentence of the Heart Sutra is saying about Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when deeply practicing the Prajna Paramita, clearly see the emptiness of five skandhas and relieve all sufferings. This seeing emptiness of five skandhas is the way we vomit the apple. We see there's no such thing called apple. Apple is emptiness. Then there's no way we attach to the ego or the Atman. When we see, five skandhas are empty, there's no such things called the owner of the five skandhas. Then we see, we don't need to take action based on those thoughts came out from our dissatisfaction. Of course, it's still there, and we have a kind of energy. Without this energy, we cannot do anything. So we don't need to eliminate, or we cannot eliminate, but we become it's kind of being friendly with that kind of a negative energy makes or help us to be healthy. That means we can open our hand and let the negative egocentricity as it is. And Okumura Roshi said this egocentricity is like a baby. When we take a good care of it, then the baby can be peaceful and sleeping. But when we ignore them or try to beat them, then the baby start to cry and become violent and try to control our life. Well, that is according to Okumura Roshi, the meaning of our practice of Zazen. And this Zazen is good for nothing, but it's not bad for nothing. It's not bad for anything. Just being there, here and there, here and now, and be friendly with everything happening within and without ourselves. And when we stand up, we have to work. Okay, this is what I have to say this morning. So next week, I continue from here. I'm sorry, next week I think I'm going to Iowa. So next time, I think I have one more Sunday to give a talk in July. And in August, we don't have no Sunday Dharma talk. On Sundays, we have 2 periods of sitting from 9 to 11. Okay, any question or comments? Please.
I'm not sure if it's a full question, but so I can't remember, is it sensation, perception, formation?
Consciousness.
Consciousness.
Mm.
So it seems, so the relationship of that to being, it seems like, or non-being, it seems like you can't get past sensation. Once you move past sensation, you're in trouble. Because if you have a perception, isn't that like classifying what that sensation was?
Mm.
And then once you have a formation, then you got an idea about it.
Yeah.
And then it's full-blown consciousness,
Mm.
and you're in big trouble.
And fixed, we have some fixed concept of what this is, what the object is.
Yeah.
And in a sense, we put that thing in a kind of a drawers.
Yeah.
And when, as a, what is this? Is this good or bad? I like this or not? Mm-hmm. Then we think, I understand what this is. And we have numberless, drawers in our mind. And when we think everything is set in the drawers, then we feel my life is good, well ordered. But whenever we encounter something new, something from those drawers came up, and we compare, this object with what we already know, and make a concept, and make judgment, evaluation, whether I like this or not. This is how, our mind works.
So is it this process of understanding that, of putting it in the drawer that you're referring to when you say become intimate with?
Yeah, to see what actually happening in our 5 skandhas. Please.
It seems to me that the result of being intimate with these 5 processes, or the 5 skandhas, including the judgment, oh, this is bad, and oh, this is good, that once we become intimate with these processes, we become equanimous.
Economist
Or equanimity.
means being equal with things.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean denying or eliminating, but being okay with these different things that show up. So in a way, it's like being connected to the blue sky and not identified with any of the clouds or the storms that pass through. So, okay, so when I heard you say we can't control the weather, okay, so I get that to a certain point, but it also seems to me that we do get the option of whether or not to continue with a process. For example, I'm thinking, that's a bad thing, I shouldn't be thinking, this thinking is drawing me off, I'm losing the present moment, and so here's a thought process that's adding to what I would call a storm. So in that way, I do have the option as to whether or not to add to a negative process or a destructive process. So from that angle, I do have some ability to control the weather.
Then you can do it. I think in Mahayana Buddhism, one important point is trust or belief that even though our sky is completely clouded with clouds, beyond the clouds there is always sun is always shining and sky is always blue. Problem is we cannot live above the clouds. We have to live, underneath the clouds. So we have to go through the changes of the weather. Of course, even though we cannot control the weather, but we can have a shelter.
We can have
shelter. Being in the house. Then we can, not escape, but avoid being wet completely. So there's some skillful means, but it doesn't mean we can control the weather, I guess.
I see what you mean. In a related way, the story of the two arrows, suffering from one arrow or suffering from two arrows, and that second arrow being self-inflicted.
Good. Okay, anything else? Please.
This might be kind of a strange question. I think this Adam and Eve analogy is funny.
Yeah, I think so too.
What it suggests to me is that our zazen, or continually vomiting up the apple, based on the Adam and Eve analogy, it kind of suggests that when we do that, we regain our innocence to some
Innocence.
extent. Do you think anything like that happens in our practice?
Yeah, we are, as a karmic human beings, we are kind of colored with what we did or what we experienced. But Dogen Zenji, or Uchiyama Roshi said, our zazen is free from any that kind of coloring. We are colored, but our zazen is free from that kind of karmic experiences. That's why we can do a kind of the fresh start. Not being overwhelmed by what we have been experiencing. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
In that sense, our zazen is kind of vomiting the apple, but next moment we eat the same apple. So there's no, a secret method to take the apple away completely forever. We need to live with the apple. Okay, thank you.